Welcome to Third Chances, a talk show where we like to hear from people who devoted their life to health, fitness, and wellness. Medical professionals, health coaches, and all the others who help us every day to cure our body, mind, or soul. Those who always look for more natural, holistic ways to help even more people to live a happier and healthier life. Those who don't like to give up easily and settle on you or themselves. It is never too late or too soon. I always believe that every one of us deserves not just a second chance, but as many as we need. I'm Vera, your host. Who better than a master of reinvention with an accent to guide you through it, right? Just like they say, you are not a tree, so move. And God knows I have done just that in my own life many times. If you are not completely happy with the direction your life is going, this show may help you get the courage to change what is needed, find a new path, and take charge. So come on over, pour yourself a glass of wine, and spend some time with us. Let's laugh and cry together and get inspired by people just like you and me who overcame their own doubts and took a leap of faith to reinvent their life on their own terms. I hope and pray that we help you on that journey. And if you feel so compelled and inspired, please let us know. Don't be shy. Who knows? You may just be our next featured guest with another inspiring success story. So here we go. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances, when we speak with people with very strong stories that reinvented their life. And my today guest is Nicole Starbuck. And I don't know why I'm thinking of coffee when I read her name. I'm sure you're getting it all the time, don't you?
I get it a little bit, yeah. It's especially funny if I'm at like a thrift store and somebody asks, you own Starbucks?
Well, Nicole, welcome to the podcast. Let me just read a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do. And I have many questions about that, to be honest. So Nicole is a psychic empath, quantum energy healer, spiritual mentor, and life coaching, empowering people to ignite their intuition and supercharge their psychic skills so that they can make their dreams a reality. And when I read this, even being a spiritual person, I would like you to translate it more into a people's talk, because this is very up there. And so what exactly do you do?
Yes, I show people how to tune into their intuition, specifically how to alchemize alchemy, which I believe is intuition coming through. We just haven't learned how to channel that yet. And then use that information to build their trust, to increase their clarity and confidence in knowing that they have wisdom and guidance within them. They already have the answers within them, so that they can stop second guessing, stop with the stress and overwhelm, and just start to live a life of freedom and flow.
I think we all have this curiosity in us, and at certain points of the times when we are standing in front of very important decisions, we may seek all the sources that can help us make that decision. So it's actually surprising for me that you didn't result into reading for people. You decided to teach them how to empower themselves to have that intuition. What came to that decision?
Yeah, so when I had my second spiritual awakening, and I'm sure we'll talk about my whole story, but my second one, I reactivated my psychic gifts and abilities, and I actually did offer professional readings as a way to refine my craft and develop my practice. Mm-hmm. And what I found is people were coming to me with a lot of anxious energy, that they were unsure of the answers and they were apprehensive of the outcome.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to address the root problem: is why do you feel that you can't trust your inner sense of wisdom? Why do you feel that you have to come to someone like me, the psychic? And the other thing that I realized is that a lot of the people that were coming to me were also clairvoyant, psychic, empath, but that they just hadn't had the opportunities to develop it in the ways that I had. So I saw this really beautiful opportunity to address the root cause of the anxiety and to empower the psychics that were coming to me that not realizing that they were psychic, give them an opportunity to develop their skills and abilities. So now I've transitioned into coaching others how to develop their intuition. I still do offer readings upon request, but really my main focus is showing other people how to do that for themselves.
Before we go to how you even get to this line of work, what you just said, how do you recognize psychic abilities in someone?
You cut out a little bit. You asked, how do I recognize psychic abilities in someone?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So one, being the psychic, I can just tell if someone's the psychic, but how do I tell? So usually someone will say something to the effect of, I had a feeling, or that's what I suspected, or I just knew in my bones, or I had an inkling. It's these little terminologies, that's the intuition coming through. And so if somebody comes to me repeatedly, like 2-3 times, I start to notice a pattern of this happening within them, that, oh, that's what I thought, thanks for confirming, or yeah, that actually turned out to be true, and I had a feeling, but I didn't trust myself. It's these little terms of like, I had a feeling, but I didn't trust it.
Yeah.
That's when I start to notice that this person is also psychic. I also see a lot of, this is the other tell sign. So one is, I had a feeling and I didn't trust it. The other is, in my reading practice, I tended to attract a lot of people that had chronic illness, mental health issues, and disease. And what I had found is much of these feelings were symptoms. I believe that what we're experiencing as symptoms is the universe's way of telling us to slow down or stop. And then when we don't, then we end up with disease or dis-ease. We are literally not at ease.
Yes.
And what happens is we have something called the clairs in the psychic world. We have things like clairvoyance, claircognizance, and then the one that most people don't realize is clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So someone that was coming to me, say, for remote distance healing, which I also do, they would have these feelings, emotions pent up in their body without releasing it, then they would end up with chronic illness or disease. So that to me right there tells me this is a person who is clairsentient. So they feel what other people are feeling. They don't know how to channel or release that energy. Now they're storing it in their body. That's creating dissonance in their body or dis-ease. Now they have chronic illness. So that's another tell sign as well.
Part of the healing is our mindset. Part of the healing is all the energy that we have and we send and receive back. And for sure, that's part of your work. And you very elegantly put me there, because this is why I thought it makes sense for you to be on my show, because it's part of the journey. Let me go back to beginning. And I'm really curious. You are very young, and I would love to hear how, you're a child, you have some dreams, what you want to do probably in your life. How did it come that you recognize these abilities and on top of it, made the use of it? Because not everybody does.
Yeah, I love that question. So I first suspected that I was psychic. I first realized my spiritual gift when I was walking out of school one day. I was 9 years old, and I just had this random thought. All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I thought, a bird's gonna poop on me right now. Just random, just like, bird's gonna poop on me. And sure enough, like 5 seconds later, it pooped on me right here on my arm. And I remember looking down at it like, oh my gosh, like, I just predicted that. I just predicted that. This is disgusting. I just predicted that. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, my mom's there, gonna pick me up. And I went to the bathroom, washed it off. And it scared me. I was like freaked out. I'm 9 years old. It scared me. And since then, I started having these dreams, these premonitions, predictions. They would come true. I had a vision that my friend was going to go into the janitor's closet and the broom was going to fall over on her. The next day it did. I would have visions. I'd be sitting at a stoplight thinking, oh, this car is going to run the light and get an accident. It would happen right in front of me. And it started to scare me. It started to freak me out because I didn't know what to do with this information. And I also grew up in this conservative religious household that did not provide the environment for me to develop that in a way that was constructive for me. I was told things like, well, if you use pendulum and tarot cards, that's evil, that's witchcraft, you're going to hell. So that was like what was told to me. So I didn't have a way to develop this in a way that made sense. So I just continued getting these visions, and I continued freaking out. And then I continued to get anxiety and felt out of control in my life because I didn't know what to do with this information. And I felt like I couldn't do anything to help the people that I was getting visions about.
Yeah. So
And
did you have anybody to talk about it with?
no, just went my whole life all the way till my early 20s. And I ended up just pursuing this, what we call the American dream: go to school, get good grades, get a good job. Everything will be fine, right? And it was not fine. It was absolutely not fine. I kept trying to put myself into this box that was not for me.
Yeah.
And I ended up with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a bunch of chronic illnesses. I had a whole rap sheet of diagnoses and things. And I ended up in the ER with a panic attack. Just one day, was brushing my teeth. All of a sudden, I felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest, completely just detached from my body. I was having, it felt like seizures, but essentially it was my body spasming from crying so much from the anxiety. My husband had to carry me to the car, took me to the hospital. I woke up. They told me I had had a panic attack. And that was the first wake-up call, was in the ER. And I realized that I'm on the right path. That was what I kept thinking. A wrong path. This is the wrong path. This is not the path for me. This is not the way I'm supposed to be living. They wanted to put me on all kinds of medication for the anxiety and depression. And I just thought, there has to be another way. There has to be another way. And so I started in this personal development field of the mindset, right? Doing the personal growth, doing the mindset, and it helped. And I got to be, so this was in my early 20s, and I got to be in my later 20s, and it still felt like something was missing.
While you were still doing your original job, or?
So I quit that job where I had the wake-up call in the ER. I was an assistant store manager at a major retail store, and it paid really well. Like, it was more money than I had ever seen in my whole life. I had complete total benefits, healthcare, all the things, but it was a lot of hours. It was rotating shifts. It was mandatory overtime. They were paying the people that I was working for peanuts. I felt really bad for where they were in their life, because I was an empath. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was an empath, and I could feel all of their pain and their struggles and everything they were going through, but I couldn't help them. And I couldn't help them in the way that I wanted. I wanted to solve the root of the problem, which was to be able to empower them and to show them like how to pursue their soul's mission and life purpose, but I couldn't do that in that role. So I quit that job. I ended up getting a couple of different jobs, and nothing ever really panned out. Now, the job that I had for the longest after that was being a virtual assistant and online business manager, project manager for other coaches and mentors. So because I was into the personal growth, so I liked these personal growth coaches, and I was a virtual assistant for them. And then I had my spiritual second awakening, where I had an invitation to, this is a funny story. So I was on Facebook, and I saw, like, on the sidebar, recommended group, something with the word soul. It was like soul-centered visionary or something like that. So I joined the group. They're having a retreat for, I think it was called Soul on Fire retreat. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let me invest in this retreat. Didn't make sense, didn't make logical sense, but let me invest in this retreat. So I go to this retreat. It's in Sedona. For anyone that's never been in Sedona, I highly, highly recommend it. Beautiful place. The energy there is just stunning. And I go there, and one of the ladies is doing this. I couldn't even explain it. It's light. I know what it is now. She was doing light language on this girl. And I thought, do me, do me, do me. So she does me. So I'm sitting there, and she's doing this light language on my back. So she's behind me. And all of a sudden, she just says out of the blue, oh, you're psychic. Like, just so matter of fact. I'm like, how did you know? Like, how did you know? Like, that's my secret. Like, nobody's supposed to know that, right? And I said, yeah, I am. And she's like, well, what are you doing about it? And I said, well, like, nothing. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. She's like, no, like, you can turn that on, and you can absolutely be like using that as your spiritual gift. So she did.
What did you say that she did on you? I didn't catch it.
It's light language. So if you've never seen light language, it can be sung, it can be spoken, it can be drawn, it can be signed. So she was doing this on my back. And what it does is it energetically recalibrates. If you were to think of, say, like a computer, and it has all these like programs and hardwires and knobs, and so it's like you're going in and you're energetically doing that on the person's field. So she was going into my field and unlocking all of the barriers and resistance that I had towards being a psychic. because I had grown up thinking psychics are evil. If I do psychic stuff, I'm going to hell. Like this was my indoctrination, right? So she did whatever she did energetically to heal that, reprogram that. And that's when I started offering psychic readings to practice. And the more that I practiced, the more courses that I took, the more certifications that I took, the more mentors that I had in this field, the more I realized that it wasn't just about the one-off reading. It was about showing that person how they could not just read for themselves, but actually heal the wound that led to them asking the question to begin with.
Yeah. That's where you fit in this podcast perfectly, because I'm looking for people who can help others heal whatever they need to heal with and whatever they need to heal from. Is it correct? Yeah. So that's a really interesting story. So you were brought up kind of denying it in yourself, which brought up a lot of stress and anxiety on you. And now you are capable of helping people with these issues using the same tools that helped you. How does it look like? How does it look like to work with you?
Yes, I love that question. So everything that I do is custom and personalized for the client or for the group. I do one-on-one as well as group programs. I do a lot of free offers. I do a lot of paid programs as well. And really the bulk of it is like the framework in a nutshell, although there's some differences and nuances depending on the unique person or the unique collective, is where are you now? Where would you like to be? And what is the resistance or slow moving energy that's holding you back from having that now? And within that, there's a lot of grace of, well, we could look at your inner child, we could look at your ancestral line, we could look at your past lives, we could look at your physical health, we could look at your mindset, whatever we're feeling called to shift within that. But essentially what I see is someone wants to be here. They are in fact here. They think or feel they can't get to point B because whatever, someone told them when they were 2 or 3, or maybe they don't remember it too, but someone told them when they were little that they're not good enough. So why would they try? So, right. So we address not just, I mean, we could sit here and manifest and use the law of attraction all day long, but unless you address the root cause of why you're not having that right now, you're not really going to get that far. So I would like to go the root cause.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing I learned, that we actually absorb most into our subconscious up to our 6 or 7 years of age.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, when the mind is wide open, we don't have any filters, we take everything as true. So whatever we are told and whatever we are being discouraged from, it stays somewhere in a subconscious mind. Yeah. And I was wondering, do you have any experience, and I know this is not your field of work, but do you have any experience with hypnosis in this?
I do. Yeah. So I was actually doing hypnosis before I realized I was doing hypnosis. So I had learned some different energy practices and guided meditation, which would get us into like the subconscious mind, connection with the higher self. Sometimes we do astral travel, astral projection into the quantum field. I was doing this. Then I thought, oh, let me go take a certification course in hypnosis. And I realized in that course of study, I had already been doing it. So now I have like the paper that shows that I'm certified, but yeah, so I do that. It's a big part of my practice because it allows that person to disconnect from the conscious mind, which is the wheels that turn in the head, all the reasons why we can't or shouldn't do something, or why we need to or have to do something, that little voice that's always telling us the opposite of what our greatest good or highest calling is. Yeah.
That's, it's interesting because I have not had the opportunity to speak with somebody like you yet. So I'm trying to come up with questions that would show you as a person more, because it's so unusual, because you know your craft and you know what you do. I am a little more into what does it feel like in you? What does it feel like to have this talent, or being able to help people? What does it feel like to people around you that are the closest to you? Can you bring us there a little bit?
Yeah. So for me, I'm empathic, which means that I will feel it in my body, clairsentient, feel it in my body. So when I get an intuitive hit or a nudge or whatever you want to call that, a download, now I know how to channel that in my body. It used to just be all up here in my head, but now when I get a download, it comes in one of three forms. So either I will feel a gut instinct, and a lot of people feel this like, oh, I just knew in my gut. I just felt a sense of knowing. It was in my bones, right? So I either feel it there in the gut, or I feel it in here in my heart, sort of as like a love or a swelling or just this like sense of peace. Or I'll often get like a word, an image, or like a moving picture here in my mind. If you, this dates me a little bit, but like AOL Instant Messenger, and nowadays text message, like a pop-up alert. It's like, oh, like here's the message. Great. And so I've been doing this so long that I know instinctively what's just my brain thinking and what's spirit talking to me, or what's someone else's guide coming in and connecting and wanting to give me a message for that person. But for someone that maybe is new to this practice, it's here's a thought, or here's a feeling, here's an image, here's a vision. Okay. Do you feel that kind of here around your head? Do you feel this here around your heart? Do you feel this here around your gut? There's no right or wrong. That's the like number one thing I want to stress. There's no right or wrong way to feel into your intuition. What may be true for me may not be true for you. So feel that. And then asking yourself the question, is this for me? Is this for someone else? Is this within my control? Is this not within my control? If it is within my control, am I supposed to act on it now? Yes or no? And again, feeling into your body, always turning back inward. Now, I, in the beginning, used tools like pendulum, tarot, even though they were evil, right? My parents, they were evil, because I didn't know how to discern that energy for myself. So someone that's new to this may turn to those tools just to kind of learn. But now it's like, instinctively, yes, no, this is for me, this is not for me. Yes, I have control. No, I don't have control. This is action, or don't take action yet. You learn how to do that by continually moving inward. And as far as how does this affect the people around me, like what do the people around me think? So I get everything from, oh my gosh, that's really cool, like can you show me how to do that, to having a conversation last week with someone from my church of, oh, well, that's not of God, and you can't combine Christ and the cosmos, and you can't combine magic and the Messiah, and what you're doing is evil and you're a false prophet. Like I get both. So I set the energetic intention that I am calling in people who are like-minded kindred spirits that want to hear my story and want to hear what I have to say, because I know and I believe that I have a message to share that can help them.
And I would also add that it doesn't have to be necessarily evil, even for Christian people, because when I hear you, it has very much the same message, like when you follow the notes from the universe, or you can insert God in the middle of it. Whatever the higher power for you is, it doesn't cancel each other out. It's not like you're trying to play God. You are, what I feel about this is you basically help people to look inside for the answers and stop and listen.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really great point. Like, this has been my perspective of keeping my own ego in check, because the one thing that these women that had this conversation with brought to my attention was that they felt like I was doing this work not to glorify God or source, universe, whatever you want to call that higher power, but to build myself up as an expert. And I said, you know what? That is absolutely right, that there have been moments in my career and my business where I have been doing it to make myself look good, to make myself the expert. And I said, but that has shifted for me. That shifted for me even before this conversation. And maybe you're not seeing that reflected in my online social media yet, but it's coming out that I am a channel. I have come to view myself as a channel for grace, for God, for the divine. So it's not me. It's not like Nicole is this all powerful psychic healer and she's the one no, like I am the channel for energy to move through, to show these people, to guide these people. It's the energy, it's the God consciousness moving through for that other person. I'm just the conduit.
And that's possibly the answer for my question when I first asked you that I was surprised you are not doing readings. You are actually teaching people how to discover these abilities in themselves, which means it's much more giving and sharing than if you were just taking money for service. It's much bigger, deeper impact that you do to show somebody that they can actually help and heal themselves, which is the whole purpose of of us being here. So
Yeah.
I think you removed your ego big way. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. So what do you find the hardest in being gifted with this talent?
Yeah. Oh, I like this question. And there's a part of me that just wants to put the disclaimer that I typically don't speak struggle. Like I avoid words like block or stuck. But the thing that I find the hardest or the most challenging, but I'm finding my peace within that, is that it's not a necessarily easy journey, in the sense that most people, like 98-99% of the population, are asleep. They have chosen, if you've ever seen The Matrix, and I always mix up the colors, which pill puts them to sleep and which pill wakes them up, but most people have chosen to stay asleep. It's a choice. They've chosen to stay asleep. And there's a small percentage of us, people such as myself, people such as yourself, such as the people listening, that wake up and realize there has to be another way, right? Just like I woke up in the air, I realized there has to be another way. And so I grew up, even before my psychic realization at age 9, I grew up feeling like I didn't belong. And I grew up moving around from place to place, city to city, searching for home. There was this searching for home. And what has come up in recent conversations in my circles and with clients is we're searching for home because this is not actually our home. And if we get into like starseed origins and where we're from the cosmos and made in God's image, and we're galactic beings coming down, spiritual beings having a human experience, we feel like we're these like aliens always searching for home because we're not actually supposed to be here. We've been sent here for a divine mission, and when our mission is done, we die, we reincarnate, we come back, we work on the mission again, or whatever you choose to believe. So the hardest thing has been feeling like I'm alone in this journey. Mm-hmm. But I realized that was a story that I was telling myself, that I'm the only one like this, that I'm completely alone. Nobody understands me. Nobody gets me. Nobody agrees with me. Blah, blah, blah. I was in a story. And as soon as I shifted that, as soon as I rewrote that story and told myself, you are not alone. You are here on a mission. There are other people like you. There are lots of people that want to hear what you have to say. Like, you have a powerful message. People started showing up out of the woodwork. I started meeting people randomly online in Facebook groups, meeting up in person. I started encountering people in my circles. People started coming to retreats. Lives have been changed. We started a Facebook group a few weeks ago. It's exploded. We have almost 400 members in less than 4 weeks. Wow. There's a lot of people. I am not alone. You are not alone. The people listening are not alone. But are you telling yourself that story? And would you like that?
For sure. We always tell ourselves good stories and we believe them until we get to talk to somebody who will kind of show you that, yeah, that's not really true, is it?
It's not. I mean, that's one of the big questions. Is that really true? Yes. Is that really true?
Exactly. But I realized that as easy as it was for me to help others, it was not so easy to help me. How is that possible? Do you have the same problem?
I historically have been the person that needs to hear something like 2-3 times before I believe it, right? Like, my husband has to tell me, my mom has to tell me, I have to tell myself, right? And I was shifting that story. And I love that you brought up this idea of self-coaching, because I would just then ask you, what perspective are you coaching from? Because if we're coming in from the ego or the mind of, let me coach from this perspective, we're not actually in alignment with our higher self. So when I coach myself, when I'm feeling energetically charged, there's a trigger, like something's not going my way, a relationship's kind of like wonky, whatever, maybe things aren't flowing in my life or my business the way I want, I have gotten into the practice of asking myself, what is it about me that I'm holding on to, or what am I holding on to that's not allowing this to flow? Right. And that's coming in from not the ego mind, but that's actually coming up from the higher self. Is like, if you can imagine your higher self coming in and connecting with you, like if your higher self was to talk to you and come in with so much love and so much grace, what would she say to you? Nicole, I hear you, that you want a loving, committed relationship. And the reason why you're not receiving that is because actually you're not 100% open to receiving love. That was a big one for me. Like a few months ago, it was like, oh, I don't have the relationship I want because I'm not actually open to receiving love. Oh,
my goodness. Yeah. And you are happily married with children.
Oh, okay. Like, oh, I'm not getting the clients I want in my business, because actually you're telling yourself that you're too busy and you don't have time. So why would I give you more clients? Oh, okay. So that's a really beautiful practice. Not thinking of it at like necessarily from the analytical logical brain of like, let me like find all the things that are wrong, let me fix it, but connecting in with your higher self. Like if your higher self were to come in, letting her speak to you. Another great practice is, if this resonates with you, is connecting in with your ancestors, if that resonates with you, connecting in with ascended masters, like we mentioned like the church and Christ earlier. If you resonate with Jesus, Mother Mary, the Buddha, any of those figures, connecting in with spirit animals, if that resonates with you, or any other spirit guides. I actually just wrote a piece for a feature that's coming out soon, but there's all kinds of spirit guides. And so it's not so much that you have to coach yourself or lean on your own understanding, but it's what forms of wisdom are wanting to come through. Is that your higher self?
It's the opposite, actually. It is the opposite. Yeah.
And like, don't be afraid to ask for help too, because we can sit here as a coach or a mentor and say, oh, I got it all figured out. And if I didn't have it all figured out, why would clients be coming to me? But I'm always learning, always learning. I have 3 beautiful, fabulous coaches for different aspects of my life and business that I turn to. And I'm always seeking. And when I come into these containers, I come with this open mind, this open heart, this question of, universe, what would you like to share with me today?
Absolutely.
Right? What would you like to share? What do I need to hear? That's the number one question I ask my coaches is, what am I not seeing that you're seeing that I'm not seeing, right?
And I think I'm not the only one. I absolutely agree with you, because I have at any given time have mentors around me and coaches, but it wasn't always the case, because I actually went through a period when I was proud of myself that I can do it all by myself, and I can self-learn, and I can, if I can afford for somebody to make my website, I can learn how to do it and do it myself. And I was proud of it until I realized I'm wasting my very valuable time on something that it would take somebody 2 weeks, and it takes me 5 months, and that's all the ego talking. Yes, you can reinvent yourself a million times and you can decide the path, but you have to ask for help. And it was a hard one for me, because I was a very self-reliant person from my childhood. I was always kind of like a leader in any kind of setting that I found myself in. And it's a hard thing to overcome. And it's another story that you tell yourself when you realize you need to shift things in order for things to change for you. This is a nice way you put it, because it's really asking for help from outside of you, even if it's spiritual.
Yeah.
And that you have to only achieve if you sit still and if you actually open to listen. I remember one time I was writing some blog post and I was realizing something came to me, and I was like, why do we have the best ideas in the shower?
Yeah.
Because that calming water makes us kind of semi-meditate. You are not answering your phones, you are not yelling at kids, you don't have requests. You are alone in the shower, the water is pouring through you on your body, and it's a quiet time when you may hear things that are really valuable. Do you have same experience?
That's taking a shower is one of my favorite spiritual practices. For being like a spiritual coach and mentor, I actually am not the person that will sit and just meditate. I love something called active meditation, and taking a shower is one of them. It's a very intentional practice of having that quiet alone time, like not being interrupted. Ideally, I mean, I have 2 small kids, but ideally being alone. And then like visualizing the water washing away any energy that's no longer serving me, bringing in all the guidance, wisdom, wealth, and abundance, like calling in all that beautiful positivity. And then, like you said, because I'm relaxed, that's when I get a lot of my ideas. So that's one of like my hacks for infusing magic in the everyday. And you said something earlier that really resonated with me, was this idea of, well, I grew up thinking that I had to do everything on my own. And that was me. Yeah. So my parents grew up like on the lower end of middle class. Like we weren't like in the poorhouse, but I just remember some things of like being stressed out about money and like charging groceries on credit and that kind of thing. And I got it in my head, again, a story that I told myself at a young age. I got it in my head that I have to learn how to be self-sufficient and independent and do everything on my own, be the perfect student, get complete straight A's, and like, don't ask my mom for any money for a permission slip for a field trip because I don't want to worry her, right? So I just got this in my head that I have to do everything on my own. And it wasn't until recently, like in the past 6 to 8 months, that I really like let that go, and I'm still have some progress to make there, but to where I can delegate to my husband, right? Delegate to in-laws, delegate to a team. Like, this is the first time in my life in business that I have actually people working for me and not doing everything for myself. And the beautiful gift of that is when you look at, say, an invoice for, I have a virtual assistant. You look at an invoice for a virtual assistant, say it's for 10 hours. So an old version of me would look at that 10 hours and be like, gosh, that's a lot of money. And then this new version of me is like, that's 10 hours I got to spend with my family.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Beautiful.
What investment, what priorities do you have? And when you need to show up fully well and focused for your clients, you need to be okay. That's the whole different shift, that especially women have this, like, we have to do it ourselves, and we have to, and nobody can do it as well as we are, and the control freaks and all perfectionism and everything that we believe. When you really need to set up priorities, what is important for you in life, where your attention, where your talent is best used. And why you're doing business. Do you want to be busy? Do you want to create expensive job for yourself? Or do you actually want to make an impact? And I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah. I love that you said control freak, because that's actually, I wrote a book about my experience that I shared about, working the corporate job and then waking up in the ER. And it's called Stress Size, which is a play on word of dress size. Stress Size, how my hunger for control almost killed me.
Oh, yeah.
And I talk about, because I was so bent on fitting into this box that I made myself so sick. I had an eating disorder, and I'm 5'7". I'm supposed to be somewhere between 130, 140 pounds for my height. Got down to 112, skin and bones, just like super controlling of every aspect of my life. If I could save 2 cents with a coupon at another store, I would drive all the way across town just to save 2 cents. Like, that was the vibe. That's not.
Oh, you remind me of a few people that I know.
Yeah, no.
So we didn't even touch on the eating disorder.
The eating disorder,
yeah.
Yeah, so I had something called, it's not something most people are familiar with. So most people are familiar with, and I fully recognize this may be triggering for some people, and so if that's the case, it may not be your vibe, but anorexia, bulimia, those are 2 common ones, right, that people know about. I had something called orthorexia, which is an unhealthy obsession with healthy eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was like so obsessed with like, oh, I only eat greens and it has to have these macronutrients and these are the and I can only have so many calories, and like I have to have this.
When was that? How long ago was that?
That was in my early 20s, right leading up to that spiritual awakening in the RR. That was one of the, aside from wanting to prescribe me Xanax for anxiety, was go eat a donut. Like that. Like, I literally had a doctor tell me, go eat a donut, go get some McDonald's. That was the prescription.
Ooh, yeah. Well, did you come to it because you were obsessed with your image, or what was
No,
the reason?
so here's the thing. It's that I felt so out of control with the anxiety, because going back to, I was getting these hits, which I didn't know how to control, that and then turns into anxiety. So now I feel even more out of control. So let me control whatever I can control. Let me control my eating, because that gives me a sense of control. Let me control my finances, because that gives me a sense of control. Let me control my husband in my relationship, which is a whole other story. We could be here another hour, how that turned out. But let me control whatever I can, because I feel so out of control in my emotions.
Wow. I think this is very often found in women, and mainly because we are born with some assumptions that we have to take care of the world, and it's all on our shoulders, and so many people give themselves in million pieces and they don't leave anything for themselves, and that's the whole goal I'm trying to do with this podcast, for people to realize, if I am not well, nothing around me will be well and done anyway. friend of mine keeps saying, you cannot pour from empty cup.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we do this to ourselves every single day. Everybody is more important than us. You have just split yourself so thin that where is you? Who are you? What do you want? Where is your life going? And I think this is really great tool that people can find if they are trying to find answers to these questions. And if this is something that resonates with you, maybe somebody like Nicole can help you get to those answers, because they are in you. We just don't know how to dig in for them. What would you suggest for people that maybe hear this for the first time, they are not experienced, or they have some assumptions that may be wrong? Or what do you suggest, maybe like 3 basic things that people can do for themselves to get in a better mindset, to start understanding more about these powers that we have?
There's so much. Oh gosh, there's so much. The first, I'm just going to go with my gut here. The first thing that comes to mind is to release any preconceived notions of what you think it means to be psychic. And you touched on that earlier, is that people might hear that word and have some assumptions.
Yeah.
Because I had my own assumptions growing up, and for a long time I resisted using the word, and now I intentionally use that word because I know it kind of rubs some people the wrong way, and I want for them to examine. I want to have that invitation for them to examine, why does that rub you the wrong way, right? Mm-hmm. So release any preconceptions of what you think it means to be psychic. And there are some different ways that we can do that, right? Anytime we're releasing anything, there's some different ways that we can do that. So one of my favorite ways to release any sort of energy, other people's expectations, any just funky energy, just bad vibe, anything, is dance or movement. So if I'm not, like right now, I'm on a call, I'm in a chair with headphones, like I can't do that. So I would, just shake it off and just get it moving. And when you do this, you're actually like energetically clearing. Like we talked about light language earlier, you're actually energetically clearing your field when you do that. And there's some other things too, like we could get into like forgiveness rituals of like, Nicole, why did you hold on to this fear and this anxiety for so long? Like there's such a thing as the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer we could do. We could do like one of my favorite things to do is a cord cutting ritual, and I have an energetic way of approaching this. There's also a magic way of doing it if that resonates with you, but the energetic way would be like, if I were feeling stress, anxiety, overwhelm, overthinking in my body, like for me, if I'm thinking about a situation that stresses me out, I feel it kind of right here. And earlier I talked about getting a feeling here in my heart. This is a different feeling. So just to be clear, this feeling is like a really fast flutter, like almost like a panicky feeling.
You have to
right?
describe it for people that are just listening to it and they don't have the visual.
Yeah. So like a fluttering feeling over my heart. Mm-hmm. A fluttering feeling in my heart, right? Of like panic, of like your heart is beating too fast. Okay. So if you're thinking about this feeling here in your heart, feeling like, if imagine there was this cord or connection from going from your heart to that person that's stressing you out, that situation that's overwhelming you, that thought that you can't get rid of, whatever the case may be. Imagine that cord and connection. And then if you could just cut it or pull it off of wherever you feel that in your body, and cut it or pull it off of that other person, that other situation, that other energy, that other entity. And now you've cut the cord. Now you have this cord. Now we have this beautiful opportunity to alchemize or transmute the energy. And I like to bring in the elements for this of fire or water or air, where one of my favorites is fire. So if I were to imagine taking this cord, which is like this weight that you've been carrying, it's all this energy that's no longer for you, it's not serving you, it's not for your highest good. Imagine putting that on a fire and watching it burn. And as it burns, that energy being released, bringing up something new. Perhaps you like to imagine a phoenix rising. What else would like to come from that energy? Because one of the other elements we use is earth. So like if you were to transmute that and put the cord into the earth, now you have this empty field. You can't just leave the field empty. Like when we talked about shifting mindset, you can't just leave your brain empty. You want to fill it with something. So if you're going to remove this cord, what would you like to bring in instead? Right. So for me, if I'm stressed stressing out about a situation, what would I like instead? And visualize that instead. And so my pillars are everyone is psychic. I believe everyone is psychic. Just over time, we've just lost touch with that.
Yeah.
And the answer is already within you, right? You already have the answer within you. And that you have the ability and the capacity to do that.
What was your biggest fear when you had to put yourself out there?
My biggest fear I actually just dealt with. So my biggest fear was that, one, my mom would disapprove, and she does not agree, but it is what it is. I'm not going to not shine my light just because she doesn't agree. She and I have already had conversations about that. My other fear was that I would get excommunicated or ostracized for being psychic and for being a healer. And I had that conversation with some ladies from church last week about their beliefs on God, my beliefs on God. I just wanted to agree to disagree. I don't know that we necessarily got there, but that's beyond the point. But what it taught me is that I survived. Like I can be my authentic self and have people come at me with their version of truth, and I can still be okay.
Yeah.
That was a big learning for me.
When somebody new come to you, what is the one question you would like them to ask, but they never do?
You guys have these really good questions. Oh, that's a good question.
Because we all have our assumptions, so maybe there's something that comes to mind.
Like I'm feeling into this question because there's so much here. So like a question for them to ask me, or a question to ask themselves?
To ask you what you wish they asked, but they never do when they come to you for help.
I have never had a person ask me, and I just was talking to someone about this. Nicole, tell me what I really need to hear, not what I want to hear. Like, what do I really need to hear? Give me your complete, honest take on this without any sugarcoating, without you trying to massage my feelings. Like, give me the hard truth. I've never had anyone ask me, what's the hard truth?
I think that's the scariest part, why people make decisions to work with someone like a coach or psychic, because they are not sure they want to hear what it's coming. And it is the hardest thing for
I
sure.
sense this so much when I was doing the readings, the psychic readings, is they're not ready for the truth.
Yes.
Because if they were, they would have already heard it from themselves from within. And they're looking to me to give them a different answer because they don't actually like what they're already hearing.
Yeah, and when I would serve them well, if you give them.
And when I give the hard truths, what happens? They don't like what I have to say, even though it's the truth. They don't like what I have to say. And then they give me a bad review, right? So it's like, okay, so am I going to like not shine my light and just tell them what they want to hear because they want the good review? No. But here's the other thing too. So anyone that's listening, like as a psychic or as someone who's leaning into these intuitive gifts and abilities, I want for everyone to understand, and this was a big learning for me, and this is something I teach all the time, is it's like a web of possibilities. That if you're coming to me for a reading or you're reading for yourself, you may get an answer for an outcome because that's the energy of the moment. So if you're coming at this is why I always advise people, do not read if you're anxious, upset, hungry, tired, thirsty, have to go to the bathroom, none of that. Like, because you're going to come at that reading from that energy. It's going to read the energy from that perspective. You're going to come up with those outcomes. Mm-hmm. But you always have free will. So just because I, as a reader, or you as a reader, see a particular outcome doesn't mean that's always what's going to happen. That's like one of the biggest myths in the industry is psychics are 100% right all the time. And if you're not, then you're a fraud, right? Because you always have free will. So if you realize, oh, I don't like that outcome, you then have a choice to make a different decision from a different energetic perspective that can completely alter the outcome. So if you look at like this web or this matrix of like all these roads connecting up, you're faced with this road. Well, if you make this path, or you make, you go left. They're like, so now I realize not everyone can see. You turn left. Well, now you just completely change the course, because the course you saw 10 minutes ago was to the right.
And you were set on it. Yes.
You were so set on it. But yes, to answer your question is, I would love for somebody to ask me for like the hard truth, where I felt like I didn't have to.
I think that's
make sure they feel okay afterwards.
yeah, that's the hardest thing, why people don't decide to work with someone, because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that, it's not your perfectionism, it's actually your procrastination. it's the stories you tell yourself, and why you don't have it when you are perfectly suitable.
And
why don't you dip into your potential? Because yeah,
I mean, and I was literally on a call with someone, and this comes up a lot. And this came up in my free Facebook group, right? Like, I launched an offer, and there was a lot of people that wanted what I was offering, and they tell themselves, "Oh, but I can't afford it." Well, is that really true? Or is it that you don't believe in yourself, that you are worth the investment to put in the money for the program? It doesn't have to be my program, but any program.
Yeah.
To develop yourself, because you don't believe that you are worthy of having whatever. Develop psychic skills, of having financial abundance, of having the relationship of the soulmate that you want. That's what it's actually about. It comes down to the worthiness
you don't
piece
believe that it's gonna be different this time, because you have tried before and you have taken courses and invested money, and then you didn't even finish the course, which is so often the truth, that you just don't trust yourself that the investment will be well spent. And so there could be a million programs coming your way that would help you if you really follow the guidance. But the answer is always looking at us in the mirror. Always. Yeah.
And here's the thing too. So you're always creating, whether you realize it or not. You are always creating. You may say out loud or speak it or set that energetic intention in your brain of, universe, I'd love to develop my intuition more. I want to trust myself more. I want to trust myself more. And then the universe presents you with an idea or a coach or a program. That's the answer. You're looking for like, oh, like this quick fix, but I mean, it just handed it to you on a silver platter. But then what do?
Yeah.
You say, oh, well, I don't know if that's for me. Like that was literally, you asked and it answered. So you always have that choice. You always have that choice.
We deny ourselves for repeatedly. It's a circle of love and life. I don't know why it is, but how would you help people to overcome that mindset?
Yes. Again, we could go back into the inner child and the ancestor and all that. Like, why do you self-sabotage? Why do you deny yourself? It can also come as easily, not easy, but could also come through the practice of, when you get the nudge or you get the inkling, it's not that you can't question it. We can have that debate with our higher self or the universe of like, do I really want to do that? Is that really for me? But do it anyways. It's like, feel the fear, yeah, and do it anyways. I'll give you an example of, I was hosting a retreat, and just out of nowhere, out of the blue, I got this nudge to post the retreat in some particular Facebook group. And I thought, I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to do that. Oh yeah, this is me talking to the universe, right? And then the universe is like, no, post in the group. So I posted in the group, and I filled out the retreat from that, because 2 people signed up, they invited people. Next thing you know, the retreat is filled. So if I had not listened, I would not have had that retreat. Had I not had that retreat, I would then not have what is essentially a full roster of clients.
Yeah.
So I asked the universe, I'm open to filling the retreat and I'd like more clients. It gave me the answer. I didn't like the answer, but I did it anyways. So that would be the thing, is when you get the nudge, when you get the premonition, you get the inkling, you get the feeling, it's not that you can't question, but feel the fear, do it anyway. Have the excuses, but do it anyway.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I would like to end our talk with, obviously, I'll post all the links, how people can get in touch with you and where they can find you below this episode. But what would be, in your mind, the best way to connect with you if somebody is seeking guidance or your services or want to learn, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the absolute best way if you want to learn would be to join my free Facebook group. So I have this beautiful community called the Conscious Collective on Facebook. So that's facebook.com/groups/Oracle Academy, which is the name of my business. And Oracle is spelled like Aura, Auracle Academy. And that's the link for the Conscious Collective. And then if you just want to connect, like be up in my DMs and chatting, I would say Instagram. So that's going to be instagram.com/Nicole.Starbuck, Nicole, Starbuck like the coffee. There's a dot in between my first and last name.
Yeah, and I'll, like I said, I will post all the links below so people can make sure that they don't have to write it down. So
yeah.
So thank you so much for this. Was a really fantastic interview for me. I learned a lot from you, and I hope our listeners as well. What would be one like wisdom or something that you go by that resonates with you that you would like to say goodbye with?
Yeah, I would like to share my mantra. This is the wisdom that I've been living by. It's been a beautiful answer to prayer. It's fueled my manifestations. It's really just added a lot of juice and energy to my relationships. Is this or something better? Which is when we're tuning into our intuition, when we're calling in clients, when we're manifesting, when we're praying, when we're meditating, whatever it is, we sometimes get stuck on a particular idea of how we want our lives to go. It's that control factor, like we talked about, right? It's like, oh, we have this vision and this is exactly the way it needs to be. But when you open yourself up to other possibilities, this or something better, the universe always delivers. It always surprises me in beautiful, magical ways. So that's keeping yourself open to this or something better. I think can continue to serve you in tuning into your intuition and then manifesting and beyond.
That's for sure. That's a beautiful, beautiful end to our interesting talk. Thank you so much, Nicole, for calling in. I forgot to ask you where you're calling in from.
I'm from Houston, Texas, not originally, but that's where we're based now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will be in Texas in September, but unfortunately not in your woods.
I know. Texas is huge. It's so big.
I know. And well, nevertheless, I hope maybe we will have sometimes opportunity to meet in person, but it was a very pleasure for me to talk with you today. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and thank you much for giving us the time and giving us so many free resources and helpful tips how we can start empower ourselves and find that talent in ourselves and find the answers we're looking for, which is not always easy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share, and I hope my story inspired someone to continue to move into their intuition.
Thank you so much.